everybody doing? Good? My job is to keep you awake after lunch, and so hopefully I'm going to be able to accomplish that in the next 90 minutes because this is a two-part session. And so we decided just to keep the rhythm flowing because once we start having the conversation, it gets to be pretty productive from our perspective. So I'm Abby Hanson, and I am the Microsoft Modern Workplace Practice Lead at a company called Ingram Micro. And Ingram Micro is the company behind Network Center's brand. So when they purchase their software, their hardware, they come to us, and we help them with that process. This is my 20th year, actually, with the Microsoft product line, working for Microsoft before I came to Ingram Micro, where I ran the Microsoft practice for North and South America. And before that, I worked for Microsoft Partner. And my favorite part of my job is that I get to come and be with customers and actually hear about what your concerns are. How do we help you do more with less? And we are in a state of the economy right now where we need to reduce spend. We need to think about our IT infrastructure and how we can actually grow our practices with less, right? And so I want to just take a pulse of the room. How many of you work in manufacturing? Okay, finance? Healthcare? What am I missing? Who didn't I call? Real estate? Perfect. Yeah, I got your question in the other one. Actually, some great use cases for real estate. How many IT directors at your company? General users? C-level? All right, I like to be interactive. So I want you to interrupt me and I want you to ask questions during this session because I want to make sure it's relevant to you and where you're headed as an organization. And I'll bring in some stories there. So when the pandemic hit, businesses transformed. How many of you have a hybrid work scenario now? How many of you didn't have a hybrid work before the pandemic? Okay, so the world is changing, right? When we look and think about how that has changed, we have a lot of people that are saying, okay, you need to come in the office 2 to 3 days a week, or we're going to continue to let you work from home. And business permanently transformed because we had to get up and running quickly. How many of you were in the Microsoft Teams session? Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. Sir, there's a seat right over here if you'd like to go ahead and take it. There's a couple of them actually. Yep. So people are the driving force behind change and progress. When we think about the workplace, there are actually 5 different generations that work in the workplace. From baby boomers, millennials, you name it, they're there. And every single type of person actually works in different ways. And so we need to make sure that we are invoking creativity. We're allowing our employees to take risk so that your companies can grow. Now, when I think about that, how much do you think it costs on average to keep and retain an employee? Shout out a number. On average. No number is a wrong number.
5,000.
Higher than 5,000. Thank you for, I wish I had more prizes because then I could totally bribe you, right? How much more than 5,000?
20.
Higher.
50.
Higher.
80.
Huh?
80.
Higher.
100.
$150,000. So when you think about that, the whole process to bring an employee in, technology matters, right? From the hiring process to use a recruiter, to onboarding, training, development, technology. If you're in a sales organization, they have a book of business. And so when they leave your organization, they're taking that with you. And then you have to do it all over again. How many of you are user base 50 to 100 in your company? 100 to 300? Over 300? Price goes up when you're over 300. And so it's important to know that because you're investing a lot in your companies from that perspective. So when we actually look at the thriving in the face of change requires resilience. As leaders in our organizations, it takes a lot, right? Personally, mentally, technology-wise. And so we need to ensure that we're meeting those needs of our employees. And this isn't working down here, by the way, with the notes, just so you are aware. Okay. So top of mind for customers, 43% of remote workers do not feel included in meetings. How many of you have online meetings? Yes. How many of you are in online meeting burnout? I'm going to be the first to raise my hand, right? I do a 30-minute meeting and I have 10 meetings in 30 minutes because of my schedule. And so it's really important, like David talked about in the previous session, through Microsoft Teams, we're actually able to recap our notes even if you're not present. And that's really cool, especially if you're a CEO and you're super busy as well. You're going to be able to do that. But making our employees feel more comfortable during meetings is important, from having our camera on. How many of you require your camera on in meetings? Oh, you're going to want to start turning your camera on. Your meetings will get shorter because you're going to be able to read and pulse the room. And I call it the room, but it's the online environment, right? And I always tell my employees, I said, I don't care if you don't have your hair done, you have no hair, you have makeup on, no makeup on, you have a kid on your lap or a dog in the background. It doesn't matter. We are now in the world of hybrid work where we're able to connect at a whole different level. I was sitting on a meeting the other day with a coworker, and we both had our cats on our lap, and we both laughed because they looked like twins. And so it's to the point that, we're getting personal in different situations. How do you enable seamless work from anywhere? 54% of leaders fear productivity has negatively impacted since the shift to hybrid work. At my company, I actually find myself working more. Raise your hand again if you work from home or hybrid. Okay, so this is, I gotta go back one. Up one. Here we go. So this is a way for us to think about this differently, right? How do we engage? How do we increase productivity? And the tools behind the scenes actually allows us to do that. And how do you keep data secure when it's now everywhere? How many of you allow bring your own device to work? Okay, that's good. Okay, so that's a good thing. We want to make sure all of our data is encrypted, it's secure, and everything across the board. But 64% of small and medium businesses allow employees to access work data on personal phones and computers. How many of you have MFA installed on your machines? Every hand in the room needs to be up. And this is super important because you want to make sure that your data is protected no matter where you go. I worked with a CEO and a partner of a customer, and the CEO had said to us, I don't want MFA. It's too much work. And I looked at him and I kind of got a little sick in my stomach and I said, too much work, it's 2 logins. Yeah, 30 seconds is too much. I'm a very busy man. And so he integrated it across his organization. Well, a threat sat in his environment for 6 months and he didn't know it. That threat got activated and he ended up owing the company a $1.5 million and he was only 300 seats. And so knowing your security measures within your company is super critical. Having those in place is super critical. Even the data encryption, which David's going to talk about later, is also important. I always tell the story, I was updating my LinkedIn profile because I got a new job at Ingram. And I was going to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I was using a Word document, which is controlled by my company, on my phone. And I went to take that information and actually put it on LinkedIn, and it said, sorry, that's company data. Those are the encryption levels that you need to be able to have so that your employees aren't copying and pasting your information on their cell phone into a different platform. Yes, they can take screenshots, but you need to make sure you're locking that information down. Challenges customers face. Real-time collaboration. How many of you have more than one collaboration tool in your organization? Yes? Cisco, WebEx, Google Meet, Slack, the 4-letter word that starts with Z that I'm not allowed to name. Do you guys have that one? Yeah, that one's not secure and encrypted and all the data goes to China. Just letting you know that on the side, okay? So it's important to know that we have to get work done virtually anywhere. I was interviewing for this job 4 years ago, and I was in Africa, and I was able to pull up my cell phone and do a Microsoft Teams meeting. Everything on the platform is secure and encrypted, but I'm still able to get work done. Microsoft Teams is my mobile office. It is now to the point in my life, which I'm on an airplane twice a month, that I don't have to open my laptop anymore. I can work on my cell phone. And that's a beautiful story to be able to tell, including pulling up PowerPoints, Excel spreadsheets, everything in one location to be able to get my work done. I can add collaborators at the same time and edit those documents on my cell phone. Change in team culture and ways people interact. Let's go back to those 5 different generations. You know, baby boomers, they love in-person meetings. So they want to be able to interact that way. They might want to be able to still send email with a document on there. How many of you still send Excel spreadsheets back and forth in an email? Yeah, it's kind of cringeworthy, right? Sorry to like call that out, but when you do that, you have the risk of losing data. Somebody else is working on that same document, whereas in Microsoft, through the cloud, you can all collaborate on the same document at the same time, and everything is saved from that area, okay? Security, risk of cyber attacks and phishing threats, huge. How many of you ever been hit by a cyber attack or a phishing attack? Yes. I want you to think about this during the presentation today. If you were to get hit by a cyber attack, how much would it cost your company? This is me safely scaring you. Yes, it does happen, right? And just like that man that owed $1.5 million, we're hearing the same stories every single day. When I worked for a partner, I worked with one of the largest malls in America. Can't say the name out loud, I'm kind of protected by data, but you get where I'm going. They called me one day and they said, hey, Abby, we were just hit by a cyber attack. The minute we open our computers shut down. And they only had 300 employees. They're a real estate company. They're just a little bit north, south. They go that way, right? And they lost over $2 million in 24 hours. And so it's important to know that having those things in place is super important. So if we learn anything today, it's really like, how do we protect ourselves? Microsoft Teams is super sexy. We know this. We're going to show some really cool things with that. But at the end of the day, you need to be protecting your house. Employees using free or consumer solutions with minimal security. Ingram used to do this. They just implemented some huge security policies where my password is now 26 characters in length. The other day, it took me 2 hours to change my password because every configuration I would put up there was like, sorry, it's not good enough. Like I literally had to get on the phone to support and say, can you help me? I'm going nuts, right? And so it's important to have that in place. And then accessing from personal devices. And then costs. We want to make sure your solutions play well together. We see a lot of times that you'll have third-party solutions in play that Microsoft already takes care of. And so when we can actually go in and look at your licensing environment with you, we can reduce that spend by a lot and implement those solutions that are already there. Granted, you might need like backup and so forth, like an Acronis or an AvePoint. That can be added on from that perspective. So hybrid work is here to stay. 42% of orgs worldwide have a hybrid workforce. And it's really cool to think about how creative we can get when it comes to hybrid. Airbnb, for example, is an awesome story. They let their employees go and work 3 months at a time in a region at certain properties, and they're working from those Airbnbs to test the product. And because of the tools that are available, they're feeling inclusive and still a part of the environment instead of having to go to an office. There's some companies out there that are saying you have to come back to work 100% of the time. But our mind changed in 2 years, right? To the point that employees, they don't want to go back. They're more productive at home. They can get their laundry done. They can have food on the table when their family gets home from school. And they're still working more hours than being in an office. I couldn't imagine going back to an office, but I haven't worked in one for 10 years. So it's that thought mentality that's there. Market trends. 84% of global BDMs are accelerating digital transformation to create flexibility. Security is top of mind, and financial stability is super important as well. So when you look at your technology estate, how do we get that right so that we can put projects in place that matter for the growth of your company and for the well-being of your employees? So challenges of secure and remote work. How many of you share your documents in multiple different locations? Yes? What kind of tools do you use for those documents?
We have SharePoint, file server, Teams.
Okay.
An EPM system for our engineering team.
Okay. Are you using other things like Dropbox or Google or things along those lines as well? Yeah, so standardization is important. If you're letting your employees store documents outside of your network, there's 2 risks at play, right? So having risk outside of your organization, first, if they leave you, they're going to take all of that with you. And you don't want to give away customer data or things that are unique to your company. The other is a security risk. Are they putting in links and things that can be phished? You want to make sure everything is protected from that area. I worked with a marketing company that did this during the pandemic, and they let them put them on all of these different things, and they actually standardized on Microsoft, and they saved about $122,000 a year because of the standardization. Plus, if you think about the risk of losing the data, companies could shut down because of that from that information. Online meetings experiences are less than ideal. So how many of you one day will go and you'll get a meeting link and you gotta go into a Zoom meeting? I said it out loud. And then you gotta go into a Google meeting, then you gotta go into a Cisco WebEx meeting, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so confused, right? Somebody sends me a Zoom meeting, I decline it, and I send them a Microsoft Teams link because I want standardization across the board. I'm in a women's leadership class right now and they use Zoom, and it makes me cringe because I need to hear things, I need to see things, and I need to visually be able to read it. And so when people are speaking at the bottom of Teams, it actually has transcription so I can hear it, see it, and read it at the same time. This makes me more productive so that I'm able to communicate better and be a more active participant in my meeting. Also, when you have to log into different systems, sometimes it doesn't pop up right away. And if I want to use it remotely on my cell phone, I'm able to do that. Difficult to collaborate with external parties. How many of you have vendors that are outside of your organization that you need to collaborate with on a daily basis? Yes? Yeah? And it's really nice because in Teams, you can actually federate with them. You're going to be able to have that conversation within Teams, within chat. So if you want to share a proposal with that vendor, you're going to be able to make that happen. And then concerns about security and manageability. These are 4 things you should be thinking about as an organization in order to get your house aligned when it comes to collaboration. So there's a lot of people on Teams. 181 markets, over 1 billion monthly one-on-one calls. Did you know you can actually make a telephone call through Microsoft Teams? How many of you use Teams telephony? How many of you are still on-prem for telephony? So you use a local telco? Yeah. You can actually save 67% by moving your on-prem to the cloud. And it's really cool because even your frontline workers, let's say you have truck drivers, just get them a Teams Essential license and add a Teams phone license to it, and they're going to be able to communicate with you at all times. Plus, you're going to be able to track how many calls they're making and see that data, right? How active are they within your organization? With a regular telephony system, you're not able to get the analytics behind the scenes. And so that's great as well. So welcome to Teams. I'm just going to do a quick video. And you saw one from David already, but mine's a little bit different. And it's getting kind of warm in here. I don't want people to fall asleep.
The act of work and collaboration is happening today, even when everyone isn't in the same room or time zone. Teams is a space where you and your team come together, but it's more than just a place to chatter during meetings. Teams bridges the gap between in-person and remote teammates. It makes working in real time or at your own pace easier than ever before. Teams is built for hybrid work, so you can stay informed, organized, and connected, all in one place. Now let's take a closer look at how collaboration works in Teams. Chat is where you can message someone or a group of people to talk about, well, anything. Teams and channels create focused spaces to gather the right people to work in the right context with files and conversations. Under calendar, meetings connect the flow of work before, during, and after you meet, so prep and follow-up are easy to find. Apps is the doorway to new ways to work together. Find familiar apps and new ones to simplify, customize, and manage how you work. How we get work done together has changed, and Teams is made for today's workplace. Built to give you the flexibility to do your best work your way.
So I love that video because it really shows you that Microsoft Teams can be your mobile office. And I think if you can think about it as your mobile office, you can bring it any place, anywhere, you're going to be able to accomplish more. From file sharing, document management, Teams chat, telephony, apps. There's over 2,000 certified apps within Microsoft Teams to help you do business better. even down to like if you have third-party apps, you can integrate that in there as well through your teams and channels. David talked earlier about shifts and bookings. Those applications are all made and free to help you reduce the spend within your organization. Shifts is really cool. How many of you have a punch-in, punch-out clock at your business? How much does that cost you on average? 70 a month. That, from its own perspective, you could be saving 70 times 12, right? Can't do math on the fly because it's really hot up here. But anyways, if you think about it from that perspective, you're reducing that overall spend. And so what you do is you create a team under that manager. That team goes in and they punch in and they punch out right in that location. And it's completely free for you, which is really neat. Oh, did you need me? Are we good? Okay. All right, so before hybrid work, attendees joined meetings. They didn't do it on equal footing. Now you have the ability. You even have translation. Do you have employees from different countries? They can actually translate into different languages, which is really great. I look pretty smart. Oh, I thought I turned her off. I look pretty smart when I am on a call with somebody from Portugal and I can talk Portuguese because it's showing me how to do it, right? And so we're able to create more connections from that area. So how can Teams help you enable teamwork anywhere? Meeting experiences connect teams remotely and on site. Again, on my phone, anytime, any place. I told you my Africa story, but I love this. We can simplify day-to-day work with apps and workflows, even assigning out tasks and different things by just tagging somebody in Teams. They're going to know exactly what they need to do from that area. Sustain employee well-being and productivity. That's why it's important to have that camera on. And even if they don't feel comfortable, let them have that avatar. Let them have that virtual background that's unique to them. Noise suppression is awesome if you haven't turned that on. It's going to block out dogs, cats, chip bags, kids, everything of the sort so that they're truly focused on what matters. Even for the ladies in the room, they're soft focused, so you constantly look beautiful on screen. So that is a good one. That's in the settings section. And then Snapchat filters if you wanted to have a fun meeting with like the puppy dog in ears, but I don't do that one. Connect people to drive culture, change, and communication. Really think about the different people that work in your environment. How do they work? What's important to them? By having great technology in place, it's going to cultivate change. It's going to help you grow. How many of you have ever quit a job because technology wasn't where you needed it to be? I have. I worked for an egg company and they made me sit at my desk. I was the digital transformation leader, I'll preface that, for 6 months reading their paper newsletters. I was like, yeah, my brain doesn't work this way, I need to go somewhere else. And so knowing your employees is important. What do they need? When I joined Ingram Micro, my requirement was that I got a Surface laptop. I made them write that into my contract, and that when I came up for renewal of my hardware, I got another Surface laptop. Because that was important to me. That's how I knew how to work efficiently. I need a touch screen. I got my Surface laptop, okay? It's important. Manage and secure any device and any user. Again, super important. If you don't have conditional access on your computers, you need to make sure you have all of that in play. Enrich device experiences and accessing desktop and applications anywhere. That one's important too. I once went to go visit a friend in Bismarck. I was super excited. I haven't seen my friend in a really long time. I drove all the way to Bismarck and I forgot my laptop. I was going to be there for 4 days. Thank goodness my person that I went to go see had a laptop, so I could just log in because my desktop was where I needed it to be because it was already in the cloud. How many of you, when you're working in your environment, constantly have it so it's in a virtual environment or in Office 365 so it's automatically saving? Okay, how many of you allow your users to save locally? Okay, it's okay if you don't raise your hands. You want to change the way you think because if you're letting them save locally, if your computer crashes, you lose everything. So being able to save to the cloud is going to keep you more productive. When I worked at Microsoft, I worked on a project for about 48 hours of work time. Microsoft at the time did not save to the cloud like that automatically, and my computer crashed and I lost everything. I tell you, it was a lot of overnights working in the office. And so we want to make sure we're updating all of that information. plus having the back-end information. If that employee were to leave, if it's saved to the cloud, a copy is already stored, so you're not losing that information, and you're able to maintain that if you need to continue on that project, okay? So more online meetings than anywhere. I'm gonna go back a page. Not all attendees feel included. This is a big one. I live in Fargo. My team's in Buffalo, New York. And the only time I get interaction with them is when we're on Microsoft Teams. And when we don't have our camera on, I'm distracted. I love shiny objects. I'm not gonna pay attention. And so as the practice leader, I make everybody have their camera on. And we're able to interact, we're able to engage. You know when somebody is confused because you're seeing it on their face, right? Because of this policy, we can actually end meetings in 45 minutes versus 15 minutes, which is awesome because we get bio breaks. And I don't know about you, but that's a really important thing, or to grab food. Unprepared attendees. With the new technology built into Microsoft Teams, it's helping you to be prepared for a meeting. It'll send out reminders. In the end, you're also able to see a recap of the meetings, which David showed in his presentation earlier, with the premium SKU. And then when Copilot comes out, how many of you have heard of Copilot? How many of you are geeking out about AI? I'm totally geeking out, by the way. It's gonna be a great way for us to interact and build content quicker. Lack of follow through after meetings, this is a big one. We all go on, we all say what we're gonna do and what we're going to accomplish. But through Teams, even now, you can send a meeting recap to your email. So you're gonna know exactly who needs to do what when. No content shared, that was a big one. Now you can share your PowerPoints, your Excel documents directly through the Teams meeting. That link will save in the file section so you can go back to the meeting and everything is stored in one location with the recording. How many of you do that right now? Okay, we would love to give you a demo after. So if you want a demo with David, we can give that to you after this, so just set up an appointment. And then distractions. So benefits of Microsoft 365. How many of you are in the cloud right now? Oh, I love this. No, we're gonna get you there, I promise. Okay, it's a goal, yeah. But enables people to lead transformation, focus on your digital strategies, security is top of mind, and financial stability. So it's cost effective. 300-seat company the other day, well, it's actually 2 months ago, we did an assessment of their licensing environment, which is something we do with Network Center if that's something you want to look at. And when we were done, we saw they had like 6 different applications that could be replaced by Microsoft. We saved them like $700,000 a year based on those applications. And so it's important to know what you own and how you use it so that we can help you do more with less. And a lot of times you'll be sitting at the table and you're gonna look at your licenses. You don't have to standardize your licensing. You can actually go down to the persona. So if you have power users, they might need a different license, whereas you have frontline workers, they might need a different license, and they all cost different. And then it's important in how you implement them and what you use. Can you guess how much time per week you get back by using on Microsoft Teams? Actually, per day per user, if you're 95% deployed and using the application. You're really close, actually. It's an hour and a half per day. So if you think about that, that's 5, 6, 7.5 hours of additional productivity you could get out of your employees and put them on projects that matter. Now, if you were to sit down and put that towards a revenue number, what would that look like for you? You're in real estate. Microsoft Teams is awesome for that as well. So if you're out there, you have Microsoft Teams on your phone, let's say you're really nervous, right, about going to a house, it's kind of sketchy, you have a customer you're kind of uncomfortable with, well, you can actually have location set on your phone through Teams. You have the walkie-talkie function. Anything happens, you push the walkie-talkie button, you're connected to somebody else, and then you're gonna be able to be safe and secure. And I tell that for car dealerships as well, like they're going on test drives all the time. Can you imagine going on a test drive with somebody who doesn't know how to drive? I mean, that would be pretty scary. I mean, I hit the curb like every day, so I wouldn't want to test drive with me. Yeah. An actual funny story, I hit the curb the other day and my daughter was in the car, she's 13, and she goes, JC. And I said, what did you just say? And she goes, I was just praying for help, Mom. So that's the conversation that I have every single day with my kids, right? How many curbs are we gonna hit today? But Teams follows you You're connected to anyone. You have your client list and in your team's phone, right? So you don't have to use your cell phone either. So telephony today, we already talked about the how much you can save here. So staying connected is important. We do this through telephony. Instant messaging, we can chat. Teams is more than just chat. It's document storage, applications, everything across the board. Call forwarding is great. Calling attendance and call queues, mobile calls, conference rooms. I mean, how many of you have Microsoft Teams meeting rooms or meeting rooms? Those are awesome because it's connected through the whole system, okay? Customer service, file sharing, co-authoring, it's all included. Calling made simple, talked about that already. I always get ahead of myself. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about AI. How many of you have an AI strategy? How many of you are scared of AI? Let's be honest. Yeah, it's kind of scary. How many of you think that AI is going to take over for you and you will no longer have a job? I like to ask that question. You don't need to worry. We're always going to need people to do the things that we do. And I'm going to show you a couple things as it comes to AI. Security, we've talked about that in the collaboration tools. So Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is going to change the way we work. We got some statistics the other day direct from Microsoft. When Copilot is available, it is going to be able to give you productivity back of 2.5 hours per day. Now imagine working on a document. And on that document, you need data. And usually you have to go search for that data. Well, it's going to create that all for you. And I'm going to go ahead and show you 3 videos, and then we're going to talk about what Copilot is going to look like for you. So I know it's a lot to look at, but when we think about Copilot, it's really combining the data that's in the back end, pulling that data up, and creating beautiful data analysis, spreadsheets, graphs, PowerPoints, Word documents. When we look at this overall, there are 7 things you need to think about, and then we're going to go into the next video. And so this is important to know, so it should be a part of your strategy moving forward. You need to be able to have Intune deployed across your organization. Super important. You're going to have Azure Active Directory, now called Azure Entra, deployed. Super critical as well. Microsoft always does name changes. Then SharePoint has to be deployed. OneDrive. ChatGPT, which is really cool. If you look at my LinkedIn, my last post was written with ChatGPT. I'm an awful speller, so it corrects it for me. The new version of Outlook, and then having a data governance policy in place. This is super important. Data governance is probably number 1. We're seeing a lot of times that customers, I just worked with one last week as we're preparing them, they have 17 years worth of data. And a lot of that data has not been locked down, so any user in their organization is able to see that. So now as you prepare your AI strategy, this is a time for you to be able to go, clean up your data, and lock it down and make sure that only people that need to see that data can see it. Microsoft isn't in the room, so I can speak freely. They did a co-pilot test with a 600-seat company, and that company did not have their data locked down. All of their HR data was exposed. So when we look at that, they could get sued. And so it's important to know that you're locking things down. People aren't seeing what they don't need to see, okay? So important from that perspective. Now, we've been talking about Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams Copilot, because there's 7 of them, but they're all under one umbrella, this is going to help you get that time back in your day. We're all in a ton of meetings. We're writing a lot of team messages. And so this is going to be able to allow us to work more effectively.
Imagine you have
Whoops, sorry.
an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With Copilot, you can opt to follow a meeting. After the meeting ends, Copilot will summarize what you missed. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. This recap will highlight content that was shared, summarize notes, and any action items for you or others whose names were mentioned. You see that one of your customers was discussed, and you want to learn more. You can ask Copilot clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. It can tell you why a certain decision was made, and gives you helpful context. You can even ask Copilot what other solutions were considered, and it provides citations from the transcript so you can see where Copilot drew these conclusions. It's a huge time saver.
I can't wait for that, because in the very beginning I had mentioned I'm in 3 meetings in 30 minutes. So to be able to get that recap, I think is super important, especially when you are super busy or there's vendor meetings that you're unable to go to. All right, and the last one is Outlook.
You stay on top of email. You have important emails to respond to. Copilot can help you separate the signal from the noise and give you hours of time back. It helps you triage your inbox so you can prioritize the most important emails. And Copilot helps you on the go in Outlook Mobile. It can summarize long email threads. You can draft for you. You can edit it. You can make it more concise. Change the writing style. Or add more context. Now all that's left to do is review the proposed response and hit send. It's a productivity game changer.
Questions so far? There's a lot out there.